Don't try to teleport, just try to move faster. And I don't think that people sit around daydreaming about teleportation, at least not realistically. It's one of those little fun thoughts I think people have. I sure wish I could teleport, some sci fi sort of idea. But I don't think that people sit there and directly have this desire to teleport, this true just I wish I could teleport. Why can't I teleport? But I think it's something that indirectly affects people's lives a lot because people are lazy and impatient, which is really a horrible combination, and it comes from unhappiness. But that laziness and impatience is basically a constant desire to teleport. It's an indirect desire, but what people are really wanting is to teleport when they are feeling that way. And that goes for physically teleporting because they want to get places faster. Even a plane ride is too long. The amazing, marvelous technology that is airplanes, even that is too long of a wait for most people. Cars, people, the speed limit isn't enough. You got to get there faster. So people are even wanting to teleport while on these devices, while using this machinery that is designed to move you at a very quick rate, quicker than we ever imagined, beyond our comprehension 100 years ago. And yet people are using that and still want to move faster. So you can see where people actually do want to teleport constantly, whether they know it or not, but they're often too lazy and impatient to simply start moving faster and be more efficient with their time. And that goes for walking. You know, you think about people, I see people walking and they often have their heads down and they're walking very slowly. And I'm sure in that moment they wish they could get where they're going faster, but they don't want to put the effort forth to move quicker. They don't want to. I don't know. They're in a funk. It all comes from a place of unhappiness, that sort of laziness and impatience. You can see where that's not a happy place to be because there's that sort of like there's this weird sort of thing where modern people will put laziness on a pedestal. Like the idea of an ideal day to a lot of people is like, I wore my pajamas and I didn't leave the house and I played video games all day, or I binge watched. I binge watched all day in my pajamas, my pajamas. And that's, you'll ask a lot of people, and that's their ideal day. And I could see if you work your ass off physically all the time and you're busy all the time, you work a full time job and you work out all the time, like you're a very physical person, or not even just physically, but you're mentally taxing yourself, you're physically taxing yourself all the time. I can see where your ideal day would be to do nothing and not take off your yoga pants. You never take off your yoga pants all day and you binge watch the strangest thing, whatever the fuck people do. And I don't mean that condescendingly, but it came out that way. But you think about that's like what someone wants to do. And so there's this laziness has been kind of put on this pedestal. And there is sort of something like Zen about us. There's a certain form of laziness that is almost Zen like, where it's like someone who just doesn't care. They're chill, as people say, and they just sit there and they're fine being lazy. They're fine sitting around. And I don't even know if that's laziness as much as it is just like being content doing nothing. It's almost this, ego, Buddhist ego death, where you just sit there and you just take things in. But more often than not, I find that laziness is coupled with impatience. And that's a horrible combination because it's somebody who doesn't want to do anything, but doesn't have time for anything either, and isn't doing anything yet doesn't have time to do anything. It's a strange, I don't even know what to call that. It's dissonance for sure. Hence why it is almost always coupled with just sheer unhappiness, laziness, and impatience. You can't feel okay because I don't care about being happy, as I've said before. I don't. I think putting happiness making happiness as a goal is the wrong way to approach it. You should always be striving to be okay, because being okay means you can go up or down with ease. And if something brings you down and you're unhappy, climbing back up to okayness is a lot easier than striving for happiness, which is a very circumstantial. Happiness is a very, it's almost luck in a way. When something strikes you and you just become happy, it's almost more a product of luck than it is anything else. Whereas being okay, I think, is something that you can strive for and maintain. But yeah, you're almost guaranteed to be extremely unhappy if you're both impatient and lazy. And impatient and lazy people, they want teleportation more than anything. They are their name is first on the petition for teleportation. And like I was saying, even planes, even something like an airplane, is too slow for us. I went to Korea some years back. I went to North Korea. No, I wish. I wish I went to North Korea. I went to South Korea some years back, and on the way there, it was, I believe, a 12-hour plane ride. And I was miserable because I can't sleep on planes. It was packed. Everybody was coughing. I don't know. Just for whatever reason, everybody on that fucking plane was coughing. Uh, he's stereotyping the Korean people, saying they all cough. People will do that though. If you say like you're on a plane to Korea and everybody's coughing, somebody will. Never mind. Somebody will think you're stereotyping everybody as a cougher. They're all a bunch of coughers. Uh, anyway, but that plane ride, it was too long. Here I am going across the world, and it's not even going to take me. It's going to take me half a day. It's going to take me half a day to go this great distance. We literally were on top of the ocean the entire time. We were hovering over the ocean for most of that 12 hours. The route we took was a direct route. We didn't have to make any stops. It was straight from Seattle to Korea, and we were on top of the ocean, way above the ocean, of course, but we were hovering over the ocean essentially for 12 hours, and yet that was too slow to me. I was being very impatient. Um, and it's amazing to think about that, and the idea that even a 2-hour plane ride to some people is too much. I was on a plane with some people a couple years ago, and one of the people I was with was complaining about a plane ride to LA, and I was just like, this is incredible. Because I enjoy a 2-hour plane ride. A 12-hour plane ride is horrible. Like that was, there's no way that I can actually enjoy that. But I found a 2-hour ride or whatever it was to LA from Seattle was enjoyable, or Portland to LA. It was just a nice little trip. It was an adventure. But still, I had that, I had that desire to teleport when I was going to Korea. I was like, I wish I could get there faster, even though this is some insane marvel of the modern world. The fact that I'm flying in the air to Korea and it's only going to take me half a day, even that's not good enough for me. And when you actually think about what a plane is a plane is a teleportation device. A car is a teleportation device. I was listening to a radio interview with Robert Anton Wilson and Timothy Leary recently, and Timothy Leary, they were talking about immortality and space travel and all this insane stuff that it was honestly kind of beyond me. But one thing Timothy Leary said that I liked is he was talking about people who were opposed to the idea of kind of a technological immortality. The idea, because and this conversation was in 1977, and people are talking about this now more than ever as the digital world takes over and as we worry about the earth and what's going to happen to all our souls. What's going to happen, but one of the ideas is just that we'll eventually essentially become like weird technological hybrids, and that's how we'll be immortal. Like, I know what I hear of more recently is the idea of basically uploading ourselves into some kind of database and we live forever that way. And I don't care about that stuff, to be honest. Sometimes I'll listen to it. It's kind of interesting, but that's the least of my concerns is honestly digital immortality. I know that everything else I care about is just as like stupid and ridiculous. But still, I just don't really care about that, but I will listen to people. But anyway, long story short, what Timothy Leary said when he was talking about people who have reservations about that is he was like, if you wear glasses, you're a cyborg. If you use a cane, you're a cyborg. You are living a life that is constantly augmented by technology if you even wear glasses. Because that's the thing, you have to put things in perspective, and glasses are technology, a cane is technology. We always use the example of the wheel. When man invented the wheel, that was technology, but glasses were very advanced technology when they were developed. A cane, even the idea of like developing this thing to help you walk. You are a cyborg in relative terms if you have glasses. You are a cyborg if you use a cane. And in that same line of thought, I would say that if you're on a plane, you are teleporting. The idea of someone 100 years ago, 150 years ago, 200 years ago, the farther back you go, the more alien that idea would sound. The idea of using a plane to get somewhere and how quickly you could do it. When you think about people even getting on ships, and ships were are a form of teleportation too. But still, back when people were getting on ships, and it was taking God knows how long to go across the ocean to the U.S., the Mayflower. People getting on the Mayflower, they never would have fathomed the idea of going to Korea in 12 hours. That is a form of teleportation. And if 12 hours is too slow for you, just you're going to have to upload yourself to a disk and launch yourself out into space to ever be happy, I guess. Um, and cars too are a form of teleportation. You think about the idea of like you have this thing. Not everybody has a car, but most people do at this point in the U.S. at least. You have access to a car at the very least. You have a friend who can drive you. You can get on the bus. I mean, chances are you're using a vehicle of some kind, whether you're the driver or not. And Even if you're going the minimum speed limit, 25 miles an hour around town, you're getting places so fast. And you don't even think about it. You just get in this thing and turn it on, and you can drive down the street so quickly. And that's not fast enough, though. People have to speed, they have to drive recklessly. And I think, not to go into another car rant, because I think what I've realized is the reason why cars are such a problem for me is they combine laziness, impatience, and the desire to look cool and feel cool. And there's nothing else really. Most other forms of laziness and impatience don't ever look cool or feel cool. Like, even if someone feels cool in their pajamas binge watching and, that kind of thing, they other people don't really see it. It's not really put out there for it. People don't really show off. They might like post on social media like, "Look at me, just lounging around in my yoga pants with a glass of wine." Some people might do that, but people don't really show off that way, and they don't really like feel cool doing it. Whereas in cars, people feel cool and they try to look cool and they become very arrogant. And that's combined with this laziness and impatience, this desire to get places faster. Because, being in this speeding bullet, this metal speeding bullet, isn't enough. 60 miles per hour isn't enough. You got to go faster. And when I said at the beginning of this, instead of trying to teleport, literally teleport, try moving faster. That doesn't apply to cars. That doesn't apply to speeding, uh, because I think you should try to move faster, but not at the risk. Not you don't want to be reckless. You don't want to put other people at risk. Uh, and cars just inevitably do that. Cars are barbaric. I love cars. I love driving my car. It's the one experience I still allow myself to have where I just get so negative and nasty and I let myself feel that way. Because other aspects of my life, I let that stuff go. I let things go. But when I'm in my car, I let myself hate people for what they do because they are putting other people at risk. So I allow myself to hate people for doing that, for driving recklessly. Um, car rant. What are we talking about? Yeah, but being in a car, that is a form of teleportation, but we take it for granted. That's the thing about we develop these devices for going faster, doing things faster, but it's not fast enough, so we desire the next stage of teleportation. And even when we are someday able to basically disintegrate, like this, like a Star Trek sci-fi form of teleportation, standing in a weird machine, and we disintegrate, and then integrate somewhere else. We appear somewhere else instantaneously. There'll reach a point where even that's too slow, where someone else comes up with one that's even faster. It's like the difference between, like, you think about modems and stuff, and there was a point in time where it's like, oh, I have a 56K modem. I can get anything in a matter of, seconds, and sometimes it's slow, sometimes it's not. Oh, but there's this thing called DSL. There's this, oh, they have a T1 over there. They got a T1. I don't even know what they call these things anymore. I don't even know what they call, despite like knowing, having worked in this profession and stuff, I don't even know what they call modem connection speeds anymore. But 56K, oh, we got a DSL over here. And it's going to be that same thing with actual teleportation devices, where it's like this one, it'll get you there instantly. But this new one will get you there just slightly more instantly, slightly more instantly. And that's kind of our attitude toward things. It's our attitude toward planes. It's our attitude toward cars. It's all of these things. And speaking of that whole thing, like telling you not to speed, because I'll always work in a PSA about driving safe. I'll always find an excuse to do that. And I really, if there's one thing that I could do in life, it would be to really make an impact on safe driving. And I mean that genuinely. It's the one thing I really wish I could do. But the difference is between moving faster in a car is, like I said, you're putting other people at risk, because it's not just that you're going fast. Like if you're on the autobahn, drive as fast as you want. Do what you want on the autobahn, but chances are you're not on the autobahn. And even then, even if you're on the autobahn, you should be respectful and not reckless. But you think about something like running, and I don't think you should run everywhere you go. When I say don't try to teleport, try moving faster, I don't mean run everywhere. There was this girl in my high school. She was younger than I was, really nerdy, possibly on the spectrum. And I remember she ran from every class to her next class, and everyone would just like look at her. And like, I don't know if she'd been like horribly bullied. Like, I mean, there were definitely some serious issues there. Um, she clearly had a rough time of some kind, whether she was bullied or whatever was going on. But I remember she literally ran, and fast too. She didn't just jog, because that'd be kind of weird. It'd be weird to jog from class to class, but she ran. And the thing about running is you can be kind of reckless with that too. You don't want to run into people. But the difference between driving fast and running is that running is a discipline, and you're in control. If you're somebody who runs, if you're like running, just jogging down the sidewalk, you're running down the sidewalk, you're probably not going to run into people because you've developed a discipline and a control. Whereas driving fast is often a sign that you're completely undisciplined. But that said, I don't mean by moving faster you should run everywhere. That was a weird tangent. But I think you could walk quicker. You think about how slow people walk, and yet they still want to get places faster. And walking is the most basic technology available to you. You were once a crawling amoeba, so in the same way that glasses make you a cyborg, walking is a technology. See, I'm just trying to work in the running angle. No, but even walking is a technology, really. It was a development. It's a physical technology that you developed, and it's a machine, and you can walk faster. And you think about that laziness and impatience that people have, and people will stress themselves out and drive themselves mad trying to get a parking place that's close to a grocery store. And those parking lots aren't that big. Walmart parking lots are big. Most grocery store parking lots aren't that big. If you have to park in the back, it's not a big deal. And chances are you'll save yourself some stress. And if you have a handicap, if you're old, if there's just some issue where, walking any distance is a problem, I totally get it. And that's why handicap spots exist, and all of that. But chances are you're more than capable of walking from the back of a grocery store parking lot to the grocery store and back. And even if you have a ton of groceries, they have carts available, which are itself. am I am I really going to say that now that grocery carts are a teleportation device? Kind of. In the same way that walking is a form of technology, I would say grocery carts they're certainly a form of technology, but I would even say they're a teleportation device. They teleport your groceries somewhere quicker so that you don't have to grab them one by one or struggle with an armful. Uh, but chances are parking in the back of a grocery store parking lot is not that much of an inconvenience, yet it causes people just parking, if you don't get a close parking spot, like people will be upset. They'll wait forever to get one up close when they could just park and walk and they'd be there already. And I think back to this horrible fight I had with a girlfriend of mine when I was in college, and she's great. Like, I'm not talking shit about her or anything like that, because she honestly is a really great first person. And that was years ago. We were young, and but I remember one time I was taking her to class or something, and I parked in the back of the parking lot because I just do that. I don't. It's kind of like my philosophy with parking is almost the same way as it is with pissing, parking and pissing. But if I'm parking my car, I don't want to be next to anybody, and I don't want there to be a chance that somebody's going to pull in next to me later. And it happens. You know, it happens. People park next to you. It's life. But I kind of have the same philosophy when it comes to urinals. And I try to relate to people, but there's one type of person. I mean, I don't try to relate to people. But if there's one type of person I just know I can never relate to, it's the type of guy who goes into a public restroom and has a whole row of urinals and he goes up to the one right next to you. It's like, and chances are that's also the same type of guy who's going to try to talk to you while you're pissing too. It's like, listen, man, I don't talk to anybody when I have my dick in my hand. For the most part, maybe there's some situations where where it's okay, but definitely not in a public restroom. I don't believe in talking to anybody when I have my dick in my hand, and especially when they have their dick in my hand, or their dick in my hand. Whoop. When they have their dick in their hand. Man, this is getting weird. Actually, the very first night school podcast, which is the side little like random tangent podcast that goes along with every night's a school night, I think the very first one was about being pee shy and public restrooms. So I recommend checking that out if you want to hear me talk about this at greater length. Oh, this is terrible. Uh, Puns, Freudian slips, all kinds of terrible stuff going on here. And I'm talking about teleportation. But anyway, long story short, I parked in the back of a parking lot because that's what I believe in doing. And I remember my girlfriend got really upset about it. The fact that we had to walk just this slight distance. And the funny thing about fighting in relationships is often you don't remember what it was about later on. I do remember this though because it was so ridiculous, and I remember it just led to this horrible fight. And of course, it was because of other things boiling over, and this was just the straw that broke the car's back. The straw that broke that shouldn't be funny at all, but still, I just remember we got in that fight, and it's like you think about that being such a big thing, the fact that we even have cars, the fact that we even have parking lots we can go to that take us so close to places so quickly, and yet it's a big deal that we have to park towards the back. It's a big deal to people. Um, so a lot of this is a matter of perspective, is just being like, yeah, this is amazing that we can do this stuff, and in the same way that walking is a technology. It's great that we can walk, yet people aren't willing to do it. Someone like eats like an ice cream cone and like goes for like a 5 minute stroll, and they're like, I'm sure glad I walked, But and I'm not talking shit on that, but still, it's crazy to me how lazy and impatient people are. Uh, and A way to combat that is to start moving faster. Like I said, you start walking a little quicker, you start getting places sooner, and you'll be surprised. You'll be like, damn, I got there quickly. I'm amazed at how quickly I'm able to do things, and it goes for efficiency too. And a way to, I guess, time travel in a weird way. A way to teleport and a way to time travel is to be more efficient with your time. Really schedule your time out and don't let other people waste your time. I think that's one of the biggest things is that people will waste your time. And I think it's good to be patient with the people you care about. You know, if it takes them a while to get to their point, not that I know anything about that, but if it takes someone a long time to tell a story, or you know, if it just if you're having some downtime with someone you care about, and it's not you're not really doing what you need to do, you know, take a deep breath and just appreciate the person, because I think spending time with people is important, and being patient in those moments is very important. But that said, a lot of people will waste your time, especially when they want you to do something. Uh, and I think it's important to be as efficient with your own time as possible, but be as efficient with other people's time as possible. And that means if someone's doing something for you or doing something with you, be very mindful of their presence and whether or not what you're doing is something that fits with, you know, I don't know how to phrase that. Like, just be mindful of the fact that you're spending their time too. They're spending your time, but if you're in control, you know, be very, very mindful. Like if you're going into a store, if you're both going into a grocery store, don't waste too much time browsing around if you already know what you want. You know, if it's a fun store trip, because fun store trips are awesome. Like when you go to a store with somebody and you're like, let's just look around. Like that's one of like the simple pleasures of life. But still, like if you're going to the store and the store is just like a mission, don't spend a bunch of time looking at shit. You know, it's all about stores here. But yeah, just you know, and I think when you become efficient with time, when you know your time and other people's time, you're essentially teleporting too, because you're cutting out a lot of this travel, and a lot of that travel is very unnecessary. Um, when you actually think about it, and it is a way to get rid of the boredom, because you think about how bored you can be, and being efficient with your time basically kills boredom. And you know, I was talking earlier about how someone's ideal day these days is to wake up and lounge around in their pajamas or stay in bed all day, and like staying in bed is a nightmare. Like I hate staying in bed. Like I wake up and I shoot out of bed, even when I was much I don't know, more negative and more prone to just wasting my time and just thinking gross thoughts. I still shot out of bed because laying in bed is kind of sick. And like, you know, it's been a problem for me when you're like dating people, cuz like I don't know, it seems like every girl I've ever dated, and this isn't a criticism, likes to spend a lot of time in bed. And I know there are like good things about that, and it can be really nice to just like hang out in bed with someone you care about. And you know, there are days where that just feels like the right thing to do and it feels wonderful. But when you do it too much, it feels like such a weird it's like existentialism compounded by, I don't know. I don't even know how to describe it. And you wonder why like I'm not in a relationship at this point in my life. Uh but uh but yeah, actually spending your time efficiently is a form of time travel and teleportation. And I didn't realize I've been talking for almost 30 minutes already, so I'm going to wrap this up. But I'd say a start, if you want to, you know, live in a sci-fi world where you get places faster and you do things better, start thinking about the small ways that you can teleport. And that can include walking just a little bit faster every day, moving your body a little more efficiently, scheduling your time, waking up early and saying, I'm going to do this for 2 hours, even if it's before work or this or that. And you'll find, I think, that you do start to teleport. And you'll find that you lose yourself a little bit. Because I know on days when I wake up and my day is basically fully scheduled from morning to night, doing things I have to do and doing things I want to do, because you should schedule both of those. But I find when I have days like that where I never have downtime, at the end of the day, I feel content. I feel like, wow, that's what a day is supposed to feel like. And maybe for other people it is just sitting in bed binge watching. I don't know. But I know that since I've started scheduling my time a lot more efficiently, since I've started moving faster, I find that I lose myself during the travel periods. The periods that would otherwise be boring, and trying, I find that I lose myself and I'll just suddenly find myself somewhere, and then I look behind me and I'm like, holy shit, like I got a bunch of things done during that travel time, or that travel time wasn't as painful. And it's mental travel time, it's physical travel time. This is both literal and metaphorical, what I'm talking about. So don't try to teleport. Don't try to get some machine that instantly teleports you. Just try moving faster as a start.